the studies are showing that it's not going to make that much of a difference with or without masks. No, I don't think Dave Asprey shadow bans. I don't. I think Dave might have maybe forgot. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Oh shit. What's up, brother?
What's up? We connect.
Bulletproof, man. Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I've been laughing at your stuff on Instagram for a while.
Dude, you know what's crazy? I was just telling the audience, I've been following your stuff for quite a while. Even before I hopped onto Instagram about 3 years ago, I've been a big supporter of your brand. I own a medical practice, a behavioral health practice. And so I recommend a lot of your products to my clients.
Thank you. And it helps to behave better when you have more energy. At least it does for me.
So I know you're on a tight schedule, Dave. So I appreciate your time. So I want to start off by asking you, so I've been watching a lot of your podcasts and your interviews and stuff, and I want to ask you my personal questions about some of the things that you've been through. So you made your mark on a global basis from your trip to Tibet, right? You were trying to explore meditation and go into a deep dive there. Was it intended to be a trip or a journey? And the difference being a trip is your destination, but a journey, anything can happen. And
it was the first few days of it were a trip with a bunch of friends from school to honor a classmate who flew 1 million miles to get an MBA in our class. She flew every 2 weeks from Shanghai or Beijing, one of the two. And so we all said we'd go out and visit her. And after that, I said, I have 3 months. I don't know where I'm going to go. And I had no idea I was going to Mount Kailash. I just really wandered. And it's
was this when you were fat?
I had lost most of the weight. I was not very metabolically fit, but I'd lost enough of it that I've been down in the Himalayas. If I had to weigh 300 pounds, my knees wouldn't have handled that.
Right. Wait, Dave, I think we got to, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You were frozen for a second, but I could always hear you.
Okay. All right. You were frozen for a moment also. Okay. So the famous story is that you were, had this mental fog, you were exhausted, and then a Tibetan woman took you in and gave you a yak butter tea. That's when the journey all began, right? So I could imagine this lady now waking up one day and checking out her phone and being like, this motherfucker made it with this recipe. Do you guys still keep in touch? Have you sent her some of your products? Did you hook her up a little bit?
No. I was in Tibet in 2004. In fact, most people didn't have digital cameras back then. I had one of the early digital cameras. In fact, a lot of Tibetans had never seen one before. So her son, who had a Tibetan nickname that means like little guy, he just took it and just taking pictures of everything all over the place. But there was no social media back then. I mean, there was email.
You don't have a way of connecting with her?
No, she was a nomadic person who lived in a little mud hut on the side of Mount Kailash, but I think they were getting ready to leave for the winter. So there isn't a good way to do that. But I did have a friend who was going on a pilgrimage to Mount Kailash, and I went to Guatemala to our plantation where we grow the Bulletproof coffee and do the mold-free processing.
Right.
And I harvested these 5 coffee cherries, and I carried them with me on hundreds of trips. They're with me all the time in my little meditation bag. And I sent those to my friends to bring them back to Mount Kailash, just as a little gesture of thanks. So they're buried on the mountain somewhere.
Let's just pretend that this Tibetan woman is watching this live right now.
Yep.
What would you like to say to her?
I'd say, thank you for sharing your ancient wisdom with me. It's funny. Yak butter tea is something that most people haven't heard of, or it's like, what? That sounds so weird. Just the word yak makes, Westerners laugh. And the idea of getting butter from these weird looking creatures and then somehow putting it in tea, it sounds absurd, but they knew what they were doing. And I still remember to this day, she put the butter in this wooden butter churn, this big heavy thing they'd carry around on the back of a yak. And then she would churn it for 10 minutes before you could drink it. I'm like, couldn't you just eat the butter and drink the tea? But it turns out if you don't blend your Bulletproof coffee, it doesn't work. And I funded some research at the University of Washington that showed why they do that. They didn't have all the research. They just knew. We tried it and it worked, and we saw the difference and we recorded it, and it became a part of the culture. So I value that a lot.
Yeah. So before, when we used to be able to see clients at my behavioral health practice, right? We had a hospitality nutrition lady who would serve Bulletproof coffee
Oh, that's
to our
awesome.
audience. Yeah, yeah, it was amazing, man. And then all this stuff happens, and now we're doing everything remotely. Um, but hey, one of the things that I know about you is that you know what is what, Dave. I've checked out your post, and I know you have a big brand, a global presence, and you got to be careful with what you say. But even with that, I really respect how you put a little bit of information out there for people to think about, because a lot of people are just completely shutting up, not saying anything. And I respect that a lot about you, actually.
Thank you. And it comes from taking a lot of arrows. It sounds hard to believe, but man, 10 years ago when I said you should put grass-fed butter in your coffee, it works. And there's a whole bunch of science behind it. People got pissed. I mean, they
Really?
were angry. Like, what? Butter kills you. And I'll tell you, man, the first time I did that, all the thoughts I've had as a kid, you eat squeeze margarine, butter is bad for you. It's not true, but it feels true. So the first time you put that hunk of butter in a blender with some hot coffee, and you're like, am I really going to do this? It
Right.
kind of feels like you're stepping on the coals with Tony Robbins, right? And
Yeah.
I did a lot of blood work to make sure that I wasn't doing bad things to myself long before I put this on my blog or anything. Everything gets better. Like, it works. But yeah, there's fear that people have. And when people are afraid, it hijacks, as you know this from behavioral health, it hijacks your thoughts. They don't go to the prefrontal cortex. They go to the amygdala, and you start reacting out of instinct. And our instincts are generally really poorly wired.
Dave, I was watching one of your podcasts and preparing for this interview, and I saw that where you were sharing how at one point you weighed over 300 pounds.
Yeah, it was just 300 pounds. I was never over 300 pounds.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the peak.
Yeah.
That was it. Okay. And that's pretty amazing to hear, because now I look at you, you got nice hair, good looking guy. You're
I
nice
think
and
I'm in
fit.
reasonably good shape. I'm about between 10.5, 11% body fat right now.
Mhm. But
There's some people making comments here. Guys, natural flavors can come from actual food, or natural flavors can come from weird chemicals. So you think I don't look at where my natural flavors come from? Yeah, they're all clean.
hey, but here's the thing that I would love to know, because they never really kind of took it to the next level with that 300-pound situation. But what I'm a psychiatrist, so I just want to ask, something different from what normal people would ask. But when you were in that state, psychologically, man, 300 pounds, what was it like for you to not be able to see your own dick? I mean, when you're 300, you can't see that, brother.
Let's not make comments about it. Maybe I could still see it.
Oh, really? It's like that for you, man?
I'm totally kidding. The more seeing your own feet, man, that was a problem. So,
Wow.
you always have a sense of shame, right? Because you don't like it. You're fat, and you think it's something that you're doing, and that it's because you're weak or it's a lack of willpower. And I certainly did that. And then I said, all right, I'm done with this. Like, this is the most important thing in life. I've had 3 knee surgeries. I've had arthritis in my knee since I was 14. My lab tests, I'm in my mid-20s, say I'm at high risk of stroke and heart attack and pre-diabetes and all this crap. But I'm eating a low-fat, low-calorie diet.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'm going to the gym. I went to the gym an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week, religiously. If I was sick, if I was having final exams, it didn't matter. I did it as my most important priority. 18 months in, what do you think I look like? So still a 46-inch waist. I could max out all but 2 machines at the gym.
Right.
I was strong and I was fat, because you don't lose weight by going on a low-fat, low-calorie diet and exercising more. That is a mean-spirited lie to suck willpower from heavy people. It does not work like that.
My
So
goodness, man.
it's what you eat. And calories have some aspect, but calories are not the biggest variable. So 90% of how you look is what you put on your plate, not how much you put on your plate, and not how much you exercise. Yeah, exercise and movement are important, but that is not how you get to look a certain way. And if we could just tell people that, look, it's no wonder that you give in to the donut that's yelling at you every day. It's because if your blood sugar is dysregulated, if you can't combine air and food to make energy, you'll be low energy, and your body will scream at you to eat because you don't have enough energy. And you can apply willpower, but willpower is based on energy itself. It's based on electrons. And there's proof that it's mitochondrial in origin. And the little power plants in your cells make your willpower. They're the ones who can't make energy. So your willpower goes down right when your cravings for the donut go up. No wonder the donut screams at you, and eventually go, I'll just eat half. And then you feel like a jerk because you ate half the donut. It's all biology, right? And it's all not conscious choice. And it is absolutely hackable. And what you do is you figure out how to turn off hunger. And magically, then the donut doesn't have any voice at all. And that's why intermittent fasting is such a big thing. That's why I wrote a book on it. And I fasted in a cave for 4 days with a shaman because I was afraid of being hungry because I would act like a jerk. I get hypoglycemic.
Oh, we're going to get into your book in a moment, brother. But, you know, you just said something really interesting a couple minutes ago about how when you're in that state, 300 pounds, you just feel really shitty about yourself. It's easier for me, Dave, to help people stop heroin than to motivate them to change their diet and take better care of themselves. It's fucking crazy, man. So when you're in that state, like, did you have a moment of desperation or some crazy shit that happened to you that made you say enough is enough and you made that move? Like,
yeah, there's a couple of those. One, okay, after I did all that working out, I'd already had my 2 knee surgeries before that. I said, all right, I'm going to get strong. And I did everything. And I finally said, after 18 months of rehab, you know, I'm maxing out my squats and all that. So I said, I'll go to try something risky. I'll play laser tag. And I squatted, I twisted, and I blew my ACL, and I went back in for another surgery. And I'm like, God damn it.
really?
Like,
Wow.
yeah, like what is going on here? And I had chronic inflammation throughout my body, and my things weren't good, even though I was exercising. So I tried the exercise, I tried the low fat, I tried the low carb, I tried being hungry all the time, and I tried it sincerely. And then I went into the doctor, and I said, man, I feel like I've been poisoned. Like I'm so tired all the time. Of course, I'm overtrained and I'm undernourished. I don't have enough fat. And I'm like, all right. And he goes, maybe you try to lose weight. And I go, I worked out, I did all this. And he just looks at me like, liar. Like he doesn't believe me. And I'm like, and then he tells me vitamin C would kill me. Literally, he said that. And I'm like, what about Linus Pauling? Linus Pauling won 2 Nobel Prizes, took 90 grams of vitamin C a day, is well known. The guy didn't know who he was. And I'm like, okay, this guy's incompetent. I fired him. I said, I'm not paying you. You're fired. And I left his office. I still haven't paid him.
Was his name Dr. Fauci?
No, his name wasn't Dr. Fauci, although he probably studied with him. Wouldn't surprise me. And so that was one thing. The other one is I'm at Carl's Jr. with some friends. I was in my late part of my undergrad. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking around. All my friends are thin. And they're all eating double Western bacon cheeseburgers with French fries. And I'm having the chicken salad with no chicken and no dressing. And I'm like, wait a minute, I work out more than all of these people and I eat less than all of them. And I'm a larger, like a more muscular, taller person than all of them. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm actually doing it. I'm doing it right. And so that was one of the things where I said, I got to try something different because the stuff that's supposed to work isn't working. And before that, sure, I could lose 20 pounds and I gain 30. I'd lose 30, I gain 40. You go over and over.
Right.
And it's a really big thing when you're heavy like that because you feel guilty. You feel like it's your fault. You feel a sense of shame. You don't like how you look. But when you learn how to lose weight right, and this is the reason I wrote the full Bulletproof diet book, you're never hungry. And there's no willpower involved. You actually just feel tons of energy. Yeah. And it's that when your brain works, it's because you're making energy. And when you make energy, the body's like, I guess I don't have to store as much as fat because maybe I'm not starving all the time. Right. So weight loss should be effortless and painless and not require willpower, except for when you're getting over foods you're addicted to. So if you have a problem with MSG or if gluten or casein, this is grain protein or milk protein, they turn into something called gluteomorphine, which sticks to your opiate receptors and makes you crave that grilled cheese like no one's business. So sometimes you have to get over that, but that's like a 3 to 5 day kind of thing. After that, like I just eat the food that makes me feel amazing and it tastes good. And then you don't have to eat kale. Kale's gross and not even good for you. And like it's supposed to be easy. You're supposed to feel good. It's your birthright. And I wish I'd have known this when I was a teenager. I wouldn't have been such a jerk.
Brother, you for the people I know. So you wrote this new book, Fastest Way, and for people who may say, "Oh, here's another diet book. Here's another fasting book." How's this book different from your old material?
Oh, it's pretty different.
Fasting books out there?
My publisher said, Dave, you should write a fasting book. The Bulletproof Diet was like one of the first books on intermittent fasting. People lost 1 million pounds on the Bulletproof Diet, which includes which includes intermittent fasting. So I'm like, okay, but step 1, don't eat for a while. Step 2, it's good for you. Here's a bunch of science, right? And this is in a lot of fasting books. And it's like, I don't want to write that book because I feel like there's good knowledge out there. Yeah. But the spiritual side of fasting, the emotional side, the psychology side, and how to actually do it so it's sustainable for decades, that starts to change how you feel. And that made me feel like it was a book unlike other fasting books and one that it's very personal. I mean, the the story about fasting in a cave and the weird stuff that I experienced there is part of it. And it's there because we have a spiritual fast, which is a long-standing tradition, and we have a working fast. But a lot of people are like, I have 50 pounds to lose, and I'm going to try to do a water-only fast the first day, Monday morning, with 2 kids bouncing around, and I'm trying to focus on my work. You're going to lose. You're going to hate your life. You're going to get cold. You're going to get hypoglycemic, and it's not going to end well. And you'll say, fasting sucks. I'm never doing it again. You flip it around. You learn how to do it right. And there's hacks that turn off hunger and pain during fasting. I interviewed a lady named Margaret Paul on my show recently. She's 81 years old. She's been intermittent fasting for 59 years. Yeah. She looks like she's 60, right? Wow. And the difference for that is amazing, right? So the long-term benefits of fasting are, okay, you don't get diabetes. You don't age as quickly. You feel better. You have more energy. You're not going to get Alzheimer's. You're not going to get cancer. You might still get it, but you have less of a chance anyway. And wow, that's pretty good. But most importantly, to understand, 15% of the thoughts in your head every day, according to a study in the book, are based on what am I going to eat for my next meal? Literally, 15%. So what if you turn that off and you didn't care about your next meal because you knew it was coming and you just weren't obsessed about it? You get 15% more thoughts about being nice to other people, about your job, about your kids, about your community, or about like watching Breaking Bad over and over. It doesn't matter. It's free thoughts. It's 15% of your capacity thinking about tacos, and it makes me mad. Like, hey, is the book doing pretty well so far? 2 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, number 5 of all books on Amazon. I beat Harry Potter for all of like 10 seconds. And then number 4 in the UK. So yeah, it's been really well received. 40,000 people have done the free training based on the book. Go to fastestway.com, guys, if you want me to teach you how to fast. I'm not asking for money or anything. I just want the knowledge out there. When you know how to fast, it turns down the voice of hunger, which turns down the voice of fear, which makes a lot more space for us to be nice to each other. So people who are nourished and satisfied are wired to be good to each other. I want to live in that world, and I don't want people to get sick from COVID because their metabolisms don't work. We can fix that. It's not even that hard. And what's interesting is that you made a post a few days ago about challenging people to not do the dirty deed. Michael Jackson beat it for 2 weeks. And brother, if I could just ask you, so I don't think you could beat my record. So I went 6 months, homie, without that. Without any sex or without any masturbation? Both. Well, I couldn't get sex because I was single at the time, and I wasn't as sexy as you. And 2, what happened was I was in the middle of a gynecology rotation, and I got assigned to a geriatric clinic. So after a month of doing that shit, Dave, the last thing you want is to think about that world. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of an enforced thing. I love it. It was traumatic, actually, quite traumatic. So 6 months. But can I ask you, in public here, what's the longest you went without doing the dirty deed? I published all the data in my book called Game Changers. I went for a whole year where I tested an ancient equation for living a long time from Taoism. And it's for guys only. It's for age in years minus 7 divided by 4. And that yields a number. And they say, don't ejaculate more often than that if you want to live a long time. And if you want to live a real long time, only ejaculate once every 30 days. So I've gone 30 days multiple times. And what happens is there is an ejaculation hangover. When you ejaculate the next day, your testosterone drops precipitously and you actually like the world less. You like your job less. You like your spouse or partner less. That's only for guys. And so that's real. And I tracked my daily happiness and energy. I'm like, oh my God, what happens if you don't ejaculate as often, but you still have sex is that you have a lot more sex because you're like, could we go again? Could we go again? You become a better lover. And your energy levels go through the roof. And I've had hundreds of followers who've read the stuff I've written about this over the last 10 years. And this is a form of fasting. But they're like, Dave, I can't believe this. I just got a $30,000 raise. I started 2 companies. I got a new job. So Napoleon Hill, he teaches, a lot of people teach that you can transmute that desire to create life into other energy in your life. And it's a real thing. And so if you're stuck on high dopamine things, especially porn and all that, going without porn, going without masturbating even for a couple of weeks, it resets your brain's sensitivity to pleasure in all of its forms, including food and companionship and everything. So that's in the book. Brother, so before you came on, I was telling the audience that what separates you from some of the other guys out there influencing and promoting wellness is that you're the cool guy. Talking about the cool shit. I was a 300-pound computer hacker. 300-pound computer hacker from Silicon Valley. I have like zero ability to claim that I'm the cool guy. I was the nerd growing up. So if I'm cool now, that's awesome. Into this person who I'll own that. No, because
it's not, you're the cool guy bringing the cool information, the new shit to the front lines for people to see. Yeah. Especially in a broken down healthcare system. Come on, we have to.
It's so broken.
It's broken
in the U.S.
I mean, brother, and I say this all the time, and I know you know Dr. Ben Lynch from
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's like, not once did these motherfuckers ever mention the value of vitamin D or sunlight or just eating right. It's always about some other way.
I was outraged, man. The government, for the $6 trillion with a T dollars they spent, where's my bottle of vitamin D that they should have bought for every man, woman, and child in fact, they should have bought for everyone in the world with that kind of money, and then that would have reduced way more than a lot of the policies they have now. So, like, come on, guys. And also Fauci, no, don't take these things. He says, oh, actually, I take my vitamin D and my vitamin C. Even after, for several months, like, there's no evidence. The evidence has been around forever that all respiratory infections, you have less of them and they're less severe when you have adequate vitamin D. It's not rocket science. This is 25-year-old knowledge. And the fact that it's suppressed, it's insane.
There's not enough money in wellness and love and promoting happiness to people. You know, there's other ways. If I ran the media, there's plenty of other ways that I could bring joy to people and get them to think smart about things too. But
like
there's
porn?
A lot of money, huh?
Like porn?
Honestly, I'd love to get like someone like you on and be like, hey, we got Dave Asprey and he's going to be talking about nutrition and wellness and shit. So listen to him.
It
like
spreads
that would
goodness.
be fun.
It does spread fun. And, you know, as a medical practitioner, you're out there, which I respect. And in the back of everyone's mind, everyone has a medical license. My wife is a medical doctor and many of my friends are in the profession. There's always if I speak the truth or I treat this patient the way I would want to be treated or I would treat my parents, will I be able to keep my license? Because the rules are so absurd in the US. So you're doing a great job of sharing real knowledge and being authentic and still being a doctor, which is fantastic.
I appreciate you. But I'm going to do what you're doing, which is talk about more of like mental health, mind, body wellness, but throw a little jab in there every once in a while. I don't want to totally let go of talking about that, but motherfuckers are getting deleted. So I got to be smarter about the way I do things.
I censor what I say. I've had my posts flagged. I've had some warning letters even, right? Because I wrote about how to keep, it's called IL-6, one of the inflammatory cytokines that goes crazy with COVID. I wrote a post about how to reduce it with a whole bunch of scientific references to herbs. But the post, apparently someone on my team had put a link to a product on Amazon to make it easier for people to find. Right. And they're like, there, you're selling this. And I'm like, maybe there's a $1 affiliate, but all right. So I just deleted the post because that's what you do. Right. But yeah, it happens. Understood. Right.
No, I got you, man. And, oh, by the way, so I want to talk about, I know you got to go in about 20 minutes or so, but
yeah, I'm good.
I want to talk about your brand actually.
Okay.
You didn't pay me to say any of this stuff, but I think your brand is fun. I don't know if you intended it to be that way, but
it's got to be playful.
It's playful.
Yeah.
I checked out your cafe in California.
Sweet.
Yeah. I actually went there to check it out. So quite frankly, it's like really cool to be like vibing with you like this. But did you have the vision in your mind to, you know, I always recommend to people that you got to work backwards, know the target and work backwards, figure out how to get there. Was the vision initially to create like a cafe and a lab right next to it and do all these cool things, cryotherapy, all the oxygen chamber, all the things that you got going on there?
Well, the first vision was I wanted to create a cafe where I could show people how they would feel when they ate the right way. And it was so hard to do, especially in Santa Monica. And grass-fed everything, organic veggies, proper fats, no omega-6 seed oils, no gluten, you know, really carefully crafted. And it's been open for 6 years now. COVID's been rough, but we've been able to keep it open.
Yeah.
And then I said, wait a minute. I have looked at every technology for enhancing human performance, for recovering better than you're supposed to, for putting on more muscle in less time, better cardio. And I've actually gone out and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to try these because I bought them and had them at my house. And I could spend all of my life flying around and driving around to try and do it, but you got to do it regularly. So I opened the world's first biohacking facility called Upgrade Labs.
Yep.
And what's really cool is that in the next few months, I'll be franchising that, and it'll be spreading across the country and the world over the next 2 years. It's
man, is there anything you can't do? You just wrote this book that's a New York Times bestseller. You got this brand.
It's all about having good people who believe in your mission working with you, man. I mean, it's not me doing this. It's my wonderful people.
Now, brother, check this out. Today actually is the second time that we're having a conversation. You know that? We actually had a conversation, and I recorded it. You want to see this shit?
I can't wait.
So I have a mental wellness supplement line. It's a small mom and pop shop. Don't worry, I'm not a threat to you.
No one's a threat, man. We're all working for the same side.
Right. So it's called Beyond Recovery. And check this out. I've recorded this.
All right. Beyond Recovery MD, number one factor that made Bulletproof brand successful. You guys really want to know this? Okay. Make shit that works.
There you go.
It wasn't my hair.
Check this out.
It wasn't, Dave, you're such a marketing genius. People say all that kind of stuff. No. I just fundamentally believe that if you make stuff that works, people are smart enough to tell that it works, and then they'll talk about it and they'll do it. And that's what I did. Bulletproof coffee, 200 million cups of Bulletproof coffee.
Wow.
It created the functional coffee category. There's like 20 people trying to knock it off. Wow. That's a change from something that works. I could have easily taken all the money there and I could have invested into saying, hey guys, my kale smoothie works really well. You should buy my kale smoothie. Kale smoothies don't work. Don't. And people know it over time.
I remember that. That's hilarious.
Or you can create something that has a meaningful difference in people's lives. As an entrepreneur, make something that's amazing and then do the work to make people know about it.
There you go.
Thank you, man. Thank you for that advice. Like,
you're welcome.
I was watching that and I was like, he's fucking right, man. I mean, marketing is important. You got to get people to be aware of your product. But if you create a shitty, poor quality product, people taste it or try it for the first time, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to be repeat customers.
It's darker than that. So I have an MBA from Wharton, which is one of the top, top 1, 2, or 3, depending on who you believe, business school. And I'm talking about you, Harvard and Stanford, you lesser schools. Anyway, I can be a snob. I went to a state school before that. So what's going on there is they made us take a class and use math to prove that it was cheaper to tell people that your product was good than it was to put the money into the product. And I'm like, that's evil. You shouldn't do that. That's the dark magic of marketing, and it's unethical to do that. Yeah. And I was like, I'll never do that. I'm just going to make really good products. And if they work, I believe people will talk about it. And that's why I opened the coffee shop. So I opened Upgrade Labs, and the results speak for themselves. And if you can't be the proof, then you're not doing it right.
By the way, kudos to your staff at the Bulletproof Cafe, because they were very knowledgeable. And the other thing, as a psychiatrist, I just observe different things that other people don't pick up on. But you guys had some good music in the background, paid attention to that. And the energy was very nice in there, Dave. It was actually a very fun.
Would you believe that I actually reached out to Rick Rubin and Steve Aoki to ask for their thoughts on the playlists that I've used?
Attention to details, man. This is what separates the best from the rest, brother. You know that?
Well, when you have scale, like think about this. I've got about 200 million downloads of my podcast.
Wow. If
I'm wasting people's time for 200 million hours, that makes me a mass murderer. Like, the bigger impact, the more you have to be precise and you have to value people's time. You know, if you waste 10 people's time because you don't have your stuff together, all right, fine. But I feel like if I'm going to do it, I owe the world the world's best, or at least my best. And
quality.
You got to do that.
Brother, do you ever go to like a Whole Foods or a supplement shop and just check out some of the stuff that's out there? And
I always do, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you feel when you pick up a product which has a lot of great ingredients, and then you come to discover that they put 5 milligrams of magnesium into that bullshit? How does that make you feel? I'm seriously, man. Like,
there's a thing called cosmetic levels of ingredients. You want it to look good on the label. Look, it has CoQ10 and it's 1 milligram or something. I think that's unethical, and the average person won't understand. Like, oh, it has CoQ10, it must be good, or magnesium. But if it's magnesium stearate that's a flowing agent, that's actually not bad for you, even though some people say, oh, it's artificial. No, not really. But if it's from that and they just put it on there as a side effect, but if they're saying, look, it has magnesium, but it's not enough to matter, it just makes me roll my eyes, because what they're doing is they're cheapening the industry for everyone. And there are quality issues in supplements. But man, the last thing that we need is for someone to regulate that. The pharmaceutical industry has been fighting since 1994 to take away your right to take the vitamins you want, and to make all of them expensive prescription drugs that you have to get from your doctor. And it's actually caused almost riots in the largest write-in campaign in all of history in 1994 when they tried to do that. And our rights are still protected by something called DSHEA. We would all be sick from COVID now if we couldn't buy our vitamin D. So,
and more. Hey, so I have a quiz for you, Dave. There's a product that you made that I use every single day, right? Well, on top of your Bulletproof coffee. And I don't believe you could guess what it is. And I'll give you 3 chances. But this is something that I use religiously. And I'll give you a clue. When I have a patient coming in, and I know that he or she's going to come in and talk about their dog or some shit about what they're depressed about, relationships, and I'm drained, I take this and boom, within 7 minutes, I'd say that I'm at that point where I'm like, tell me more.
It's one of 2 products. It's probably Unfair Advantage or Keto Prime.
Oh!
Did I nail it? Ha! I nailed it.
Brother,
that stuff is magic.
I love this shit, man. Yo, guys, again, I don't accept any sponsorships. The St. Laurent, Jan Stones. Thank you for this, Jan, by the way. But this shit, it's really unfair. I don't understand how this is legal. And you know what I love about this thing? It's not, I've tried other like energy supplements before and they all make me feel fucking wired. Like I don't like that come down shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But this, I describe to my clients as like a very clean Red Bull, like without the crash.
It's amazing because you look at what's in there. It's all about the delivery system. What's in there is an unusual compound in your mitochondria called PQQ. You can buy PQQ, but it doesn't do anything when you take it orally. They're in these little ampules, and it's in something called a liposome. So it tastes kind of fruity. You put it under your tongue, and then it can absorb. And it's got some CoQ10, which is not there as an active ingredient. It's there to help it absorb into the body. And man, you take that. When I made 100 ampules with people's names on them when I first was doing the lab work for this, and I gave one to my friend JJ Virgin, who's another author, taught me how to be a New York Times bestseller. And she drank hers, and 5 minutes later, she goes, give me another one. Like, I don't have any more. They have people's names on them. She goes, no, tomorrow I'm on stage in front of 15,000 women. I need my brain on this now. And that was when I'm like, okay, I got something special here. And I take it whenever I'm going to do something big.
But this shit's a little expensive, man. I mean, look, there's a saying that you get what you pay for, which is a crock of horseshit, because you could pay for something and get ripped off. So I always say
that's a good point.
If
you don't always get what you pay for, right?
Exactly. But if you want the good shit, you got to pay more. Yeah. So I'm fully understanding of that. But I'll sometimes give this to a client. I'm like, yo, this shit's like $1.50 per. It's good stuff. But no, I really love this. I have do you find it interesting that cardiologists who prescribe statins, these cholesterol medications, and it's a known thing that if you're taking these kind of meds, your CoQ10 levels go down. And when they go down, people feel like shit. They feel tired because you're not feeding the mitochondria. Do you find it interesting that when I recommend CoQ10 to my clients who are on statins, that 100% of them so far didn't know, or the cardiologist never mentioned anything about CoQ10?
Dude, Merck has a patent for packaging CoQ10 with statins, but they don't make it. They just have it patented. And I don't think any doctor should be allowed to prescribe statins without also prescribing CoQ10. Just based on the whole Hippocratic oath kind of situation, it is that big of a thing. We know this to be true. CoQ10 is necessary for you to take air and food and make energy in the body. So I think statins are likely, unless you're one of the few people who really needs them because of some weird genetics, they're likely to increase your cancer risk, because when you decrease mitochondrial function, you increase cancer risk. It's like a teeter-totter. It always works that way. And I'm not alone in saying that. There's lots of people in the functional medicine community who are gravely concerned about it.
And brother, in all fairness, you're not like a Western medicine hater or anything. Like, you've been very open and honest about your experience with modafinil, Provigil.
Oh yeah, love that stuff.
Stimulants.
Yeah.
And I love how you're on it for some time, but then you figured out other naturopathic ways to deal with, your focus and attention and energy.
I would still take it, but my brain's always on it, man. I take it. It's like a 5% bump. It used to be like it would triple my performance, and I got my brain back.
Yeah.
So, when I'm doing all the eating the right stuff and getting sleep, man, I've never been this smart and focused. And I measure my brain response time. There's a curve. It's called the P300D. It's how quickly does your brain automatically respond before you can think about it. I have the average response time of a 20-year-old, and I'm 48. And I didn't have that when I was 40. So my brain is getting younger and faster. But I'll use a pharmaceutical as long as it's got a high risk reward ratio. And the problem is most pharmaceuticals don't. So you're like, how can I fix it with my environment and my food and my supplements, and then go to pharmaceuticals whenever you need them?
Right, right. Hey, brother, so I have a last question for you before I let you go. So in my practice and on my social media accounts, there's a lot of these young guns, these Gen Zs.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating sometimes talking to these guys, because for them, making $1 million a year is not enough. Like, it's either go billion or go broke.
I got a story for you.
Well, sure, please.
All right, finish your question, because I did that when I was.
So I try to explain to these guys that in order for them to be successful, fuck business, but just be successful in life, you got to be willing to move towards your discomfort zone and do some shit that you don't want to do to get what you want.
Sound like
and
Gary
so they'll
Vee.
be like, okay, and then they start something. They try to start an app. They do some research into this, that, or the other. And then after about 2-3 weeks, they quit. And then they're back to their basement playing Fortnite, thinking that they're going to beat the South Koreans in this shit, which isn't going to happen. Can you just share a story about your experience of building Bulletproof, of some crazy shit that you went through, to back up my point here, that it's not easy to get to where you want to be?
Before I started Bulletproof, I spent almost 20 years in Silicon Valley learning how to be an entrepreneur. When I was 26, I was a co-founder of a part of the company that held Google's first servers when they were just two guys in a computer. I made $6 million when I was 26.
Wow.
And I lost it when I was 28. And when I had $6 million, I looked at another buddy at this company where we all made more money than we should have. And I said, I'll be happy when I have $10 million. And I believed it at the time. So here's the deal. If you're starting a company because you want to get rich, you probably won't. If you're starting a company because you're running from failure and you're proving to the boys in 7th grade that you're good enough, you probably will succeed, and you will hate your life the entire time. And if you're starting a company because you have something that is newer and better than anything on earth that makes the world a better place, you will have happiness and you will succeed with much less effort, because you'll be pulled in that direction versus pushing yourself either against yourself or against other stuff.
Love it.
So you got to have a mission. You've got to do something big. And who cares? This is what they don't tell you. The difference in your life between 10 million and $100 million is zero. It's more money than you can ever spend, unless you have to buy some giant jet, which you don't have to buy. Yeah. So anything over about 10, maybe your number's 20 because the dollars are going down in value, whatever. But somewhere around there, every additional dollar you make is just a ticket to support a charity or start another business that's going to solve a global problem. People don't know this. You saw Elon Musk's $100 million X Prize?
No, I didn't see that one.
He just announced he's going to give $100 million to the first group that can capture a gigatons of carbon in a cost-effective way to fix the carbon problem. What you don't know is that prize is going to get cut from the X Prize. And I was in the room with a bunch of billionaires. This prize out the door, and I gave a speech, and a few other guys like me, younger entrepreneurs who are successful but not crazy successful, we all put in 50 grand until we had $250,000, and then one of the big dogs stood up and said, I got the rest. And that is why there was $100 million X Prize today. The fact that I had $50,000 to donate there, that's why you make extra money, so you can do that when the time comes. It's not so that you can buy more bling or whatever the hell you're fantasizing about. Your life doesn't change. In fact, for happiness, above $75,000 a year, there are many studies. You don't get happier for more money. It's nice. It's helpful. It's good, but it doesn't make you happier. The happiness comes from somewhere else. It comes from contributing to your community. That's what entrepreneurs are supposed to do. And if you're one of those knockoff artists, I saw an idea, I'll just copy it into a cheap thing. Why do you think Amazon's full of plastic junk like a swap meet from 20 years ago? Because of people racing to the bottom. Don't be one of those entrepreneurs.
Exactly, man. Hey, that's a great tip, man. After this interview, I'm going to chop it up and make a nice little video out of this. And lastly, and I know I said lastly, but I just wanted to ask a bonus question here. What is your routine? I know it's probably different from day to day, but generally speaking, like, what time do you get up? What time do you eat? What do you do? What time do you post your shit on social media, podcast? What's your day like?
I wake up around 6:30, maybe 7, somewhere around there. I go to bed around 11:30, sometimes 10:30, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to do that. I hacked my circadian rhythm. I read about that in Fastest Way. I used to be more of a night owl. And I wake up. I usually have some espresso made with the Bulletproof beans, of course.
Right.
And then I sit down and I write my goals for the day. And I do a set of exercises from a guy named Barry Morguelan. He runs a company called Energy for Success. He's basically the real life Dr. Strange, one of 9 living grandmasters of this ancient Chinese stuff from Lao Tzu. And the stuff works. So there's weird kind of Qigong inspired exercises, but that combined with the goal setting, man, my whole day is different. From there, and there's also 15 minutes of meditation in that. From there, I usually bring coffee into my wife and kids. And then sometimes I'll drop my kids off at school. I come back and I do some biohacking, whole body vibration, intermittent hypoxic cryotherapy, something like that. Whatever has the highest ROI for that day, so I can spend the least amount of time and energy to get the most physical or mental benefits from it. Mm-hmm. I take a handful of supplements. I usually have a Bulletproof about that time.
Wait, real quick, do you do cryotherapy every single day?
No.
Okay.
I might do a cold shower sometimes if I'm too lazy to turn on the cryo. So I set aside about a half hour to 45 minutes, and I'll do a different biohack, usually each day. So I don't do it every day. I don't think it's necessary once you're cold acclimated. It's probably better, but I have enough toys. I could spend 8 hours a day biohacking, and then I would get nothing done. So there's that.
Okay, so after that, so that's around the afternoon time, and then.
Yeah, and I usually, lately especially, I've been eating 1 meal a day at 2 p.m.
Yeah,
and if I do that, man, I'm just not hungry for dinner. And then I sleep even better, and I wake up the next morning, I'm not hungry. So I just had lunch before we got on Instagram here, and like, I'm not going to eat till tomorrow. And I like food, but
you feel better that way.
I feel way better. It's crazy. Wow. Yeah.
Hey man, thank you for, I know you got to bounce. You got another interview or so.
Yep, I do.
Really nice to connect with you. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom, and hope to connect with you again soon, brother.
Well, we'll connect and keep doing what you do. I genuinely enjoy your content. You've got a kind of an edge and a vibe that I like. And here's the thing to close with. You're never going to care about your health. It's always going to be number 17 on your to-do list. It's never going to be number 1, especially when you're young. The only people who care are people who are really sick, like I was. Yeah. You're never going to care about your age until you're old, right? But what you care about today is your energy and your power. And everything that I share, everything they're learning from you, it's about having more power today. And the side effect is you don't get sick. And the side effect is you don't get old. But it's like, show up better now. That's the secrets that we're sharing. That's what matters.
Boom. Wow. Dude, you're a pretty smart guy. I bet you went to Wharton. Okay.
They barely let me in.
Take it easy, brother.
Thanks, man.
Really happy to connect with you. All right, be well.
Me too.
Bye. Dude, that was a lot of fun. Awesome. Yeah, dude, I told you he's cool, man. That dude's amazing, right? He's awesome. So check out Dave Asprey, Upgrade Labs, and check out his Bulletproof brand. Really cool brand. Again, I'm not sponsored by Bulletproof, but just a fun guy. And what can he do? Fucking New York Times bestselling author now again? Shit. But yo, dude, seriously, if you guys are feeling a little bit on the tired side, this is my secret. Unfair Advantage. It has PQQ and CoQ10 and some healthy fat in there. And I guarantee you in about 7 minutes after you take it, you'll feel more awakened. Not from the bullshit, but just, have more energy. So I love you guys. Lori Morning Glory, 22 Robbins, Ranchen Coer, Ray Mandan, Perceptive Visionary, The Saints, Anjan. Hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Suzanne, Jeremy, Zimmy, Guerrero, Dorisk, Simple Me, Show Woogie. Thank you guys. Ranch. All right, I got to bounce, but thank you so much for hanging out with us. Be well.